A few years ago, if someone had told me that one day I'd be sitting here talking about spirituality, consciousness, meditation, soul awareness, and life purpose, I probably would have laughed because that's not what I ever looked for. I always looked for growth. I wanted to be successful, happier, stronger, richer, a better version of myself, more resilient, more emotionally strong. I wanted better relationships, better decisions, more confidence. I wanted life to work better. And if you'd asked me then where I expected to find all of that, spirituality wouldn't even have made the list. And yet, when I look back today, almost every major breakthrough in my life has roots in something spiritual. And that's what this series is all about. Not religion or rituals or blind faith, but a journey. My journey. A journey that began long before I even knew that I was on it. Have you ever wondered why two people can go through the same experience and one becomes stronger while the other becomes bitter? Why one person faces setbacks and still finds hope while another gives up? Why some people seem to have an inner stability that is not dependent on circumstances? I used to think the answer was intelligence or education or money, maybe power or strength. But I was wrong. Over the years, I've met incredibly successful people who were deeply unhappy. I've met ordinary people carrying extraordinary peace. I've met people with every reason to be hopeful and who weren't, and people with every reason to break who somehow did not. And somewhere along the way, I became fascinated by one question: what makes the difference? What is it that allows some people to keep growing through life while others get stuck? There's a beautiful moment in the Ramayana when Hanumanji was standing at the edge of the ocean. The impossible task lies ahead of him. He has to cross an ocean to go to Lanka and find Sitaji. He hesitates because he has forgotten who he is. He has forgotten his strength, his own power. And then Jambavan speaks. He reminds Hanumanji of what was always there in him: his powers, his capability, and potential. Nothing new was given to him. He was simply reminded. And once he remembers, everything changes. I've often wondered if growth is less about becoming something new and more about remembering something we already know, remembering strengths we have forgotten, remembering truths we have overlooked, remembering parts of ourselves that lie slowly buried under pressure, ambition, and fear. And when I look back at my own life, I think that's exactly what happened to me. I grew up in a home where spirituality was not taught, it was lived. It was woven into everyday life. My mother has been a Shiva devotee for as long as I can remember. Faith was not a topic of discussion at home, it was just simply there, always. And then there were my grandparents who followed a guru, devotion, practices, rituals. In my family, there were also some practical people who rejected all these ideas and only believed in tangible science that can prove and explain. I grew up between these two worlds: the spiritual world and the practical world. For years, I thought the two worlds were completely different. I was wrong, and it took me decades to understand why. And now, the two worlds around me have given birth to something very powerful that I live by. I call it practical spirituality. Why I did not understand that the practical world and the spiritual world are deeply connected is because as a child or as a youth, I never stopped to ask what any of the spiritual practices meant. Even the simplistic ones like lighting diyas every day, or praying, or fasting, I did not see that they were tools. I did not see the resilience and inner strength that was built in those people who had faith. And for years, I was living like I have no power because I didn't recognize it, just like Hanumanji standing at the edge of the ocean. The power was already there, of faith, of thoughts, of creating my life any ways I want. I simply did not understand it then. And life moved on. I grew up, and like most people, I started searching for happiness, meaning, purpose, and for growth. And every time I thought I have got it, I've got an answer, life would hand me a bigger question. Every breakthrough created another quest. Every success led to the next challenge, which forced me to grow. And slowly, I started noticing that the questions I was asking weren't really career questions. They were not related to growth, productivity, or maybe self improvement. At their core, they were questions about life. Why do I suffer? Why do I fear? Why do certain people enter our lives? And why do some experiences transform us? Why do some people heal while others stay stuck? And those questions kept pulling me toward places I never expected to go, towards spirituality, consciousness studies, meditation techniques, understanding the mind and the neuroscience behind it all, and toward understanding myself. At 21 years of age, life gave me an experience that completely changed the way I understood faith. Years later came another turning point, then another. Sometimes through people, sometimes through books, sometimes through meditation, sometimes through teachers and spiritual traditions. I never imagined I would explore so much, and sometimes through experiences that even today I can't fully explain. Looking back now, I don't see isolated events, I see a path, a thread. Years later, life introduced me to ideas that transformed how I understood thoughts, consciousness, and personal growth. And somewhere along the way, I realized something that changed everything. Spirituality was not pulling me away from life, it was teaching me how to live it better. It was making me more effective, productive, more resilient, peaceful, grounded, more aware, and a better thinker, a better partner, a better parent, a better human being. And that's why I'm creating this series, not because I have all the answers. I don't. But because I see a thread that connects experiences that seem unrelated, a thread that helped me grow spiritually, healed me emotionally and mentally, and helped me grow materially. Over the next few episodes, I'm going to tell you stories I've never fully shared before. The story of a stranger who handed me a book he shouldn't have known I was looking for. I experienced at 21 that changed my relationship with faith forever. The invisible education my mother gave me without ever calling it spirituality. The discoveries that expanded my understanding of reality years later. The practices and techniques that helped me live spiritually and grow materialistically. And most importantly, how all of it made life better, how it helped me live better, love better, and grow faster. Before I go, I want to leave you with a question. What is that one thing in that life gave you years ago that only you understood much later? Maybe it was a person, maybe a book, maybe a piece of advice or a setback or some unexpected moment that changed the direction of your life? I would genuinely love to read your story in the comments because I believe we understand our lives best when we learn from each other's journeys. And if today's conversation made you pause or reminded you of something you have forgotten, would you share this episode with just one person? Not to convince them of anything, but just because sometimes the right story reaches the right person at exactly the right time. And if this is the kind of a conversation you enjoy and explore life, grow spiritually with curiosity, I hope you will subscribe and join me for the rest of this journey because this is only the beginning. In the next episode, I'll tell you the full story of what happened when I was 21, the story of a complete stranger that changed the course of my life. It's a story that I've never shared publicly in this detail before. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep growing because sometimes we are not becoming someone new. We are simply remembering who we've been all along.